You're now watching No Shelf Control with the one and only Shannon.
Take it off the shelf and let's get into it. Yeah.
Hi, this is Shannon from No Shelf Control. Thanks for joining me again tonight. I am back as promised tonight with a list of books that I have already read, but might be great choices for you for Blackathon in the month of February. If you're not familiar with Blackathon and haven't watched my previous couple of videos where one, I talked about Blackathon and the possible 4 or 3 teams that you could be on. I said 3, held up 2, and then said 4. The 3 possible teams that you could be on. That was the first video. You guys helped me to choose a team, so I am on the Granny Nanny team. And then last night I went through all 4 of the prompts for the Granny Nanny team and listed a whole bunch of books that I think are possibilities for me to read to match the 4 prompts. So what I wanted to do tonight was come back with books that I've already read that might be good for the 4 prompts for you. If you didn't hear anything on my long list yesterday that you were interested in, or maybe you've read all of them, or maybe I just really wanted to talk about these books that I've already read and loved, there's nothing on this list that I didn't rate either a 4 or 5-star read, and each of them is relevant to some one of the prompts. So I think we should go ahead and get started. The first one is for the prompt, a charming protagonist who is spiritual or who has fantastical abilities. And the first book I wanted to talk about is The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. Talk about fantastical abilities. So this book is published in March of 2020, 437 pages, but it was a fast read. By Orbit is the publisher. And here is the blurb. 5 New Yorkers must come together in order to defend their city. Every city has a soul. Some are as ancient as myths, and others are as new and destructive as children. New York City? She's got 5. But every city also has a dark side. A roiling ancient evil stirs beneath the earth, threatening to destroy the city and her 5 protectors, unless they can come together and stop it once and for all. So this is a book about people who represent the 5 boroughs of New York City and an evil force that's represented elsewise. So I read this, loved it, gave it 4 stars. It definitely would fit for the first prompt for the Granny Nanny team. If it's something that you're interested in, absolutely check it out. The second book that I wanted to offer as an option for a charming protagonist who is spiritual or has fantastical abilities is Finding Me by Viola Davis. This came out this year, so it was published, not this year, but 2022. April 26th of 2022 by Harper One. It was an Oprah's Book Club choice, 304 pages. I'm sure you've heard about it, but here's a little bit about it. Narrated by Viola Davis on the audiobook. In my book, you will meet a little girl named Viola who ran from her past until she made a life-changing decision to stop running forever. This is my story, from a crumbling apartment in Central Falls, Rhode Island, to the stage in New York City and beyond. This is the path I took to finding my purpose, but also my voice in a world that didn't always see me. As I wrote Finding Me, my eyes were open to the truth of how our stories are often not given close examination. We are forced to reinvent them to fit into a crazy, competitive, judgmental world. Loved this. Listened to it on audiobook. Finished up the last part of it on ebook, but did listen to most of it on audiobook. It is narrated by Viola Davis. It is wonderful. Very touching. Great book. I think it would fit nicely with the first prompt. The next book I want to talk about is for the second prompt, a protagonist who is mixed race and or an immigrant, and it is Homegoing by Ya Jessie. This one was published in 2016, which was a good reading year for me, by the way. Published by Alfred Knopf, and it's 305 pages. I remember recommending this to a book club that I was part of at that time. We read it. Okay. A novel of breathtaking sweep and emotional power that traces 300 years in Ghana and along the way also becomes a truly great American novel. Extraordinary for its exquisite language, its implacable sorrow, its soaring beauty, and for its monumental portrait of the forces that shape families and nations, Homegoing heralds the arrival of a major new voice in contemporary fiction. Two half-sisters, Afia and Essie, are born into different villages in 18th century Ghana. Afia is married off to an Englishman and lives in comfort in the palatial rooms of Cape Coast Castle. Unbeknownst to Afia, her sister Essie is imprisoned beneath her in the castle's dungeons, sold with thousands of others into the Gold Coast's booming slave trade, and shipped off to America, where her children and grandchildren will be raised in slavery. So you then watch the generations of both of these women's children as they go through life, with this defining factor at the very beginning that one of them became wealthy and one of them became a slave. So really great book. Absolutely read that for protagonist who is mixed race or an immigrant if you're going to do Blackathon in February and be on the Granny Nanny team. The next option that I have for the second prompt is The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. May have also heard about this one. This one was published in 2020, though it feels much newer to me. I don't know why. Riverhead Books was the publisher and 343 pages. So we talked a little bit about Britt Bennett yesterday. One of the books I'm considering is The Mothers by Britt Bennett. The Mothers was her debut. The Vanishing Half was her second book. I loved The Vanishing Half. So here is about that book. The Vines twin sisters will always be identical, but after growing up together in a small southern Black community and running away at age 16, it's not just the shape of their daily lives that is different as adults. It's everything. Their families, their communities, their racial identities. Many years later, one sister lives with her Black daughter in the same southern town she once tried to escape. The other passes for white, and her white husband knows nothing of her past. Still, even separated by so many miles and just as many lies, the fates of the twins remain intertwined. What will happen to the next generation when their own daughter's storylines intersect? So check that one out if you need something for prompt 2. Another option for prompt 2, the third option for prompt 2, is With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. This one was published in May of 2019. 400 pages, though again, this was a really quick read for me. I read it partly on ebook and partly on audiobook. And the details of this one are, with her daughter to care for and her abuela to help support, high school senior Emoni Santiago has to make the tough decisions and do what must be done. The one place she can let her responsibilities go is in the kitchen, where she adds a little something magical to everything she cooks, turning her food into straight up goodness. Still, she knows she doesn't have enough time for her school's new culinary arts class, doesn't have the money for the class's trip to Spain, and shouldn't still be dreaming of someday working in a real kitchen. But even with all the rules she has for her life, and all the rules everyone expects her to play by, once Emoni starts cooking, her only real choice is to let her talent break free. I believe this one is YA. I really enjoyed it. I absolutely gave it 4 stars. Would recommend it if you are so inclined. The fourth option I had for the second prompt, which is again, let me read it to you one more time. A protagonist who is mixed race and or an immigrant. I thought Born a Crime by Trevor Noah would be a nice fit for this prompt. Loved this book, loved Trevor Noah. And this one was published in 2016. As I said, a good reading year for me. 289 pages by Doubleday Canada. Okay. So, the memoir of one man's coming of age, set during the twilight of apartheid and the tumultuous days of freedom that followed. Trevor Noah's unlikely path from apartheid South Africa to the desk of The Daily Show began with a criminal act, his birth. Trevor was born to a white Swiss father and a Black Xhosa mother at a time when such a union was punishable by 5 years in prison. Living proof of his parents' indiscretion, Trevor was kept mostly indoors for the earliest years of his life, bound by the extreme and often absurd measures his mother took to hide him from a government that could, at any moment, steal him away. Now that sounds very serious, and there are very serious parts of that book and haunting parts of this book. But a lot of it is also very funny. Trevor Noah is a funny man, and there are a lot of funny vignettes as part of this book as well. Highly recommend. Gave that one 5 stars. Would love to see you read that one. And then perhaps one of my favorite books of all time. Can't say exactly why, but I loved this book. This is Americanah by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I've heard somebody say that. That's why I can pronounce that one when I can't pronounce anything else. This one was published May 14th, 2013, 477 pages. Again, didn't feel anywhere near 477 pages, by Alfred A. Knopf. Ifemelu and Obenze are young and in love when they depart military-ruled Nigeria for the West. Beautiful, self-assured Ifemelu heads for America, where despite her academic success, she is forced to grapple with what it means to be Black for the first time. Quiet, thoughtful Obinze had hoped to join her, but with post-9/11 America closed to him, he instead plunges into a dangerous, undocumented life in London. 15 years later, they reunite in a newly democratic Nigeria and reignite their passion for each other and for their homeland. Loved that book. She writes part of it as a blog that Ifemelu publishes. Just really, really enjoyed that book. Definitely one that I refer to all the time when somebody asks me for a book recommendation. Americanah is on that list. Okay, the third prompt. Here are some recommendations I have for that. The first one is These Ghosts Are Family by Maisie Card. Read this book this summer. Got made fun of because I was reading this book in the pool. Now, it's not like I was swimming with it. I was just standing in the pool, staying nice and cool, and reading my book. I thought that was totally reasonable. But people were all up in arms about me having my book in the pool. Oh, well. So the published date for These Ghosts Are Family is March 3rd, 2020, published by Simon & Schuster at 271 pages. A transporting debut novel that reveals the ways in which a Jamaican family forms and fractures over generations in the tradition of homegoing by Ya Jesse. Stanford Solomon has a shocking 30-year-old secret, and it's about to change the lives of everyone around him. Stanford Solomon is actually Abel Paisley, a man who faked his own death and stole the identity of his best friend. And now, nearing the end of his life, Stanford is about to meet his firstborn daughter, Irene Paisley, a home health aide who has unwittingly shown up for her first day of work to tend to the father she thought was dead. I'm not sure that I mentioned what the prompt was for this particular book. It's the third prompt, a book set in Jamaica or on an island. So this is in Jamaica, very obviously a good fit for the prompt. Really, really enjoyed this book. Gave it 5 stars. Had a hard time at the beginning because they're all vignettes and they wind back and forth. And you'll find one character from the first vignette in a vignette, 3 stories later. And I was going back and forth trying to figure out who was related to whom, how, and it was a little challenging, but I enjoyed every bit of it. Really was glad that I read it, was glad that I put in the work to make all the connections and figure out what was going on. Really loved that book. So if you're looking for something from Jamaica or an island for the third prompt, I would highly recommend These Ghosts Are Family. The fourth prompt, the last prompt, is actually a book centering a tight-knit group of friends or unlikely allies. And the first book I wanted to mention was a book that I did a review on just recently called Someday Maybe by Onyi Nwabineli. Great book, gave it 5 stars, total gut punch of a read. Just absolutely loved it. It's one of the most recent books I've read. It was published November 1st of 2022. It was a book of the month pick. And it says, a stunning and witty debut novel about a young woman's emotional journey through unimaginable loss, pulled along by her tight-knit Nigerian family, a posse of new friends, and the love and laughter she shared with her husband. Onye Nwabineli is a fresh new voice for fans of Ya Jesse. Apparently there are certain books that I like. Queenie and I May Destroy You. Here are the 3 things you should know about my husband. 1, he was the great love of my life, despite his penchant for going incommunicado. 2, he was, as far as I and everyone else could tell, perfectly happy, which is significant because 3, On New Year's Eve, he committed suicide. So yeah, that is as I said, gut punch of a book. They describe it as witty. There are definitely witty parts if you can get past the absolute, like, just gutting of the, relationship and the feelings that the protagonist is feeling. There is some wit in it, but I was much more hung up on the sorrow. The second book that I might recommend for prompt 4 is Deacon King Kong by James McBride. That one was published March 3rd, 2020 by Riverhead Books, and it's 384 pages. Here's what it says. In September 1969, a fumbling, cranky old church deacon known as Sportcoat shuffles into the courtyard of the Cause Houses housing project in South Brooklyn, pulls a .38 from his pocket, and in front of everybody shoots the project's drug dealer at point-blank range. In Deacon King Kong, McBride brings to vivid life the people affected by the shooting, the victim, the African-American and Latinx residents who witnessed it, the white neighbors, the local cops assigned to investigate, the members of the Five Ends Baptist Church where Sportcoat was deacon, the neighborhood's Italian mobsters, and Sportcoat himself. It's a great story. Love the characters, a very wide variety of, wild characters. Really, really enjoyed that one. Gave it 5 stars. Did part of it on audiobook. Really loved the reading and the narration. So you might want to try it that way if you're interested. Now this next one, this is my book. Nobody ever knows about this book, and I loved this book. So I have a special penchant for this book because no one else ever mentions it. It doesn't get like the highest reviews on Goodreads, and I absolutely loved it. So trust me on this one. It's called In West Mills by Deshaun Charles Winslow. It was published June 4th of 2019 by Bloomsbury Publishing, and it's 272 pages and worth every minute. Okay, for readers of the 12 Tribes of Hattie and the Turner House, an intimately told story about a woman living by her own rules and the rural community that struggles to understand her. Azalea, not Center, is determined to live life as she pleases. Let the people of West Mills say what they will. The neighbor's gossip won't keep Not from what she loves best: cheap moonshine, 19th century literature, and the company of men. And yet Not is starting to learn that her freedom comes at a high price. Alone in her one-room shack, ostracized from her relatives and cut off from her hometown, Not turns to her neighbor, odiously loving, in search of some semblance of family and home. So I just love this. Loved Not as a character, loved her story, loved the neighbors and everything going on in the community. And like I said, I feel like this is a book I discovered. Now, obviously, there are like 20,000 reviews on Goodreads. There are a whole bunch of other people who read it, but it is my personal passion project to let people know about this particular book. And it would be a great fit for the 4th prompt. My 4th option for the 4th prompt is Skye Falling, and that's Skye with an E, Falling, by Mia Mackenzie. This is published June 22nd, 2021 by Random House, and it's 320 pages. Here's what it says. A woman who's used to going solo discovers that there's one relationship she can't run away from in this buoyant novel from the Lambda Literary Award-winning author of The Summer We Got Free. 26 and broke, Skye didn't think twice before selling her eggs and happily pocketing the cash. Now approaching 40, Skye moves through life entirely and unrepentantly on her own terms, living out of a suitcase and avoiding all manner of serious relationships. Her personal life might be a mess, and no one would be surprised if she died alone in a hotel room, but at least she's free to do as she pleases. Then a 12-year-old girl shows up during one of Skye's brief visits to her hometown of Philadelphia and tells Skye that she's her egg. So great characters in this story, really interesting queer relationships, and a great portrayal of the city of Philadelphia. If you don't know anything about Philadelphia, it's a great portrayal of Philadelphia. Really enjoyed the setting and the people and sort of the homage to Philadelphia. I would highly recommend that one as well. The fifth option I have for the fourth prompt is Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds. You may know this one. It is YA. Read this one with my son, absolutely adored it. Read it again and again. It's quick. It's 306 pages, but it's written sort of in a verse form. So there aren't a lot of words on all the pages, and it's really fast. It was published in 2017 by Athenaeum Caitlin Blowy Books. I don't know how to pronounce that. And it's 306 pages, as I said. A Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds. A cannon, a strap, a piece, a biscuit, a burner, a heater, a chopper, a gat, a hammer, a tool for rule, or you can call it a gun. That's what 15-year-old Will has shoved in the back waistband of his jeans. See, his brother Sean was just murdered, and Will knows the rules. No crying, no snitching. Revenge. That's where Will's now heading, and with that gun shoved in the back waistband of his jeans, the gun that was his brother's gun. He gets on the elevator, 7th floor, stoked. He knows who he's after, or does he? And then the elevator stops on all the floors and the story continues, and it is fantastic. My son loved it. I loved it. I would highly recommend it. The sixth option, I had a lot of options for this particular prompt, is The Sweetness of Water by Nathan Harris. Published June 15th, 2021 by Little Brown and Company. 368 pages. Here's a little bit about that particular book. In the spirit of the known world and the Underground Railroad, a profound debut about the unlikely bond between two freedmen who are brothers and the Georgia farmer whose alliance will alter their lives and his forever. In the waning days of the Civil War, brothers Prentice and Landry, freed by the Emancipation Proclamation, seek refuge on the homestead of George Walker and his wife Isabel. The Walkers, racked by the loss of their only son to the war, hire the brothers to work their farm, hoping through an unexpected friendship to staunch their grief. Prentice and Landry, meanwhile, plan to save money for their journey north and a chance to reunite with their mother, who was sold away when they were boys. This is a great story. The relationship between the white farmer and his wife and the two freed slaves is fantastic. There are scenes from this particular book that are just burned into my memory. They are so great and profound, also very, very sad. But there are just some really great characters and a really fantastic storyline in this book. Last book, I promise. The seventh option that I have for the fourth prompt is 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. This one was published in 2021 in June by Grand Central Publishing, and it's 336 pages. Here's a little bit about this last one. Brooklynite Eva Mercy is a single mom and best-selling erotica writer who is feeling pressed from all sides. Shane Hall is a reclusive, enigmatic, award-winning literary author who, to everyone's surprise, shows up in New York. When Shane and Eva meet unexpectedly at a literary event, sparks fly, raising not only their past buried traumas, but the eyebrows of New York's Black literati. Yes, literati. What no one knows is that 20 years earlier, teenage Eva and Shane spent one crazy, torrid week madly in love. They may be pretending that everything is fine now, but they can't deny their chemistry, or the fact that they've been secretly writing to each other in their books ever since. I loved both of these characters. Both Eva and Shane are fantastic. Very different, but very charismatic, easy to like. The relationship between Eva and her daughter is something that I really admired. And the fact that she's an erotica writer was really cool. So I would highly recommend checking that one out if you're looking for a read for prompt 4 for the Granny Nanny team for Blackathon this year. That's all I have. Those were the books that came screaming to mind as I read through the prompts and tried to come up with options for myself. And I wanted to make sure I shared them with you in case there was something there that you might want to read for Blackathon. I will be back to tell you what I choose to read for Blackathon from the things that you might have recommended for me or the choices that you might have made from yesterday's video. And I hope to talk more with you soon. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll be back soon with another video. Thanks.
Thank you for watching No Shelf Control with Shannon. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. See you next time.
Take it off the shelf.